People always say the most dangerous love stories start with friendship. They are wrong. The most dangerous ones start with devotion disguised as loyalty, with years of quiet longing hidden inside laughter, inside late-night talks, inside the harmless title of best friend. For as long as Eloane Carter could remember, Elias Voss had been her person. They grew up side by side, neighbors, classmates, each other's constant anchor in a world that often felt chaotic and unkind. To everyone around them, they were the perfect platonic pair. Two souls so comfortable in each other's presence that romance never seemed to fit. Eloane believed that truth for nearly a decade. She had no idea Elias had been living an entirely different truth all along. Eloane was 23 when she met her first real boyfriend, Kian. He was gentle, steady, and effortlessly warm, the kind of person who brought calm into every room he entered. They met at a community art gallery, where Eloane displayed her oil paintings and Kian worked as a curator. Their connection was soft and natural, free of rush or drama. He admired her quiet creativity, listened patiently to her overthinking, and loved her openly and unapologetically. For the first time in her life, Eloane felt seen in a romantic way, not as a side character, not as someone's support system, but as a girl worthy of dedicated affection. When she told Elias about the new relationship, she expected excitement. She expected teasing, encouragement, the same joyful support he had always given her. Instead, he went quiet. His usual easy smile faded, his eyes turning guarded and distant. He congratulated her flatly, changed the subject quickly, and vanished into work excuses for the next 2 weeks. Eloane noticed the shift but brushed it off. Elias had always been protective of her. She assumed he was simply worried she would get hurt, that she would rush into something that might break her. She told herself their friendship was too strong for jealousy, too rooted in years of trust to falter over a new relationship. Slowly, their dynamic began to fray. Elias stopped initiating their traditional weekend coffee dates, stopped texting her goodnight, stopped showing up for the small, consistent moments that had defined their bond. When they did meet, he was sharp, subtly critical of Kian, quick to point out flaws and potential risks. He warned Eloane that Kian was too perfect to be real, that calm people often hid hidden selfishness, that new love always faded fast. Eloane grew confused and hurt. She had never known Elias to be bitter or unkind, yet he seemed determined to plant doubt in her happiness. Still, she clung to their friendship. She told herself he was scared of losing her, that his harshness came from care. She refused to believe there was anything deeper driving his behavior. To her, Elias was family. Fixed, unchanging, purely platonic. The idea of him loving her romantically felt absurd, impossible. A line their relationship had never even come close to crossing. She had spent years relying on his stability, his loyalty, his unwavering presence, and she had never once questioned what fueled it. For 6 months, Eloane balanced her blooming relationship with Kian and her slowly unraveling friendship with Elias. Kian noticed the tension immediately. He told her gently that Elias's attachment felt obsessive, that his negativity was not normal friend behavior, that someone who truly loved her platonically would choose her happiness over his comfort. Eloane defended Elias fiercely, insisting he was just overprotective, that their history justified his concern. She refused to see the truth sitting directly in front of her. The first major crack in her blind trust arrived on her 24th birthday. Kian planned a quiet, intimate dinner at her favorite waterfront restaurant, complete with handwritten notes and a small gallery of printed photos from their months together. It was thoughtful, sincere, and exactly the kind of soft romance Eloane had always dreamed of. She invited Elias, assuming he would be happy for her. Instead, he arrived late, tense and withdrawn, and spent the entire dinner silent and withdrawn. His gaze fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin prickle after dinner. When Kian stepped outside to take a phone call, Elias finally broke. His voice was low, strained, years of repressed emotion spilling out in a single trembling sentence. "You're going to ruin everything by choosing him." Eloane froze, stunned by the raw bitterness in his tone. "What is wrong with you?" she asked, hurt rising sharp and hot in her chest. He makes me happy. Why can't you just be happy for me? Elias stared at her, his walls completely crumbling. Because I've been making you happy for 10 years, he whispered. I've been the one you called at 2 a.m. when you were crying. I've been the one who fixed every broken thing in your life. I've loved you quietly, loyally, perfectly, and you never once noticed. You never once looked at me the way you look at him. Eloan's world tilted. She stood frozen, unable to process the words she had just heard. All the small moments she had dismissed as friendship crashed over her at once. His endless availability, his refusal to date seriously for years, his jealousy whenever she grew close to anyone else, his quiet sacrifices she had always taken for granted. It had never been friendship. It had been waiting. A decade of patient, painful, unrequited love hidden behind the safest label in existence. Best friend before she could respond, Kian returned inside. He saw their tense faces, recognized the fracture between them, and calmly suggested they all go home. That night Eloan could not sleep. She replayed every year of their friendship, every late-night conversation, every time Elias had chosen her above everything else, and she realized how blind she had been. She had loved him purely as family, while he had loved her entirely as a lover. In the days that followed, Eloan pulled away from both people, overwhelmed by guilt and confusion. She felt terrible for never seeing his pain, for taking his devotion for granted, for building a happy love life while he suffered in silence. At the same time, she loved Kian genuinely. He was kind, honest, and steady, and she did not want to hurt him either. She was trapped between two forms of love, one new and bright, the other old, rooted, and tragically unfulfilled. The story's true twist arrived one rainy evening a week later. Eloan went to Elias's apartment to talk, determined to mend their broken friendship, to apologize for her blindness, to find a way forward without ruining either relationship. She planned to tell him that she cherished him deeply, but only as family, that she could never return his romantic feelings. She expected sadness, grief, acceptance. What she found was far worse. When she knocked on his door, Elias was not alone. On his coffee table lay an open journal, its pages exposed, words written in his familiar handwriting. Curiosity pulled her eyes downward, and what she read shattered every truth she thought she knew. The journal was not filled with pining love. It was filled with calculated resentment, meticulous observation, and cold, quiet revenge. Elias had not loved her silently for 10 years. He had possessed her silently for 10 years. He had never wanted her happiness. He had wanted her dependency. He had stayed up late for her not out of devotion, but to ensure no one else could occupy that role. He had sabotaged every potential crush she had ever had in high school and college with subtle rumors and manipulative interference. He had pretended to be her safest person so that she would never need anyone else. Her loneliness, her repeated failed connections, her habit of only trusting him. He had engineered all of it. The final entry stopped her breath entirely. I did not fall for her. I built her to fall for me. Kian is the first mistake in 10 years. I will fix it. Eloan stepped back in shock, her hands shaking. The loving, loyal best friend she had trusted her entire adult life was not a pining lover. He was a manipulator who had slowly isolated her from the world to keep her dependent solely on him. His jealousy was not heartbreak. It was rage at losing control. His years of support were not kindness. They were a long, patient trap. Elias appeared behind her, quiet and composed, no longer upset or vulnerable. The mask was fully gone. You weren't supposed to find that, he said calmly. Eloan turned to face him, her chest tight with terror and sorrow. You never loved me, she whispered. You just hated the idea of me belonging to someone else. He did not deny it. I gave you everything. I made your world safe. You owed me loyalty. You owed me priority. He took that from me. Love doesn't trap people, Eloan replied, her voice breaking. Love doesn't isolate people to own them. You weren't my best friend. You were my shadow. In that moment, every warm memory curdled into something dark and unsettling. Every late-night comfort, every protective gesture, every selfless choice had been a brick in a wall he built around her life to keep her only for himself. His confession days earlier had not been a breaking point of love. It had been a breaking point of failed control. Eloan left his apartment that night and never looked back. She cut off all contact completely, blocked his number, deleted every trace of their years of friendship. She cried not for a lost love, but for a lost childhood, for a trust she had given blindly to someone who had never deserved it. She apologized honestly to Kian, explained everything, and let him hold her through the slow, painful process of unlearning a decade of manipulation disguised as care. In the months that followed, Eloan learned the most brutal lesson of her young life. The people who stay closest to you, who know every vulnerability, who love you quietly and endlessly, are not always your safest people. Sometimes they are the ones waiting longest to break you. Sometimes friendship is not pure. Sometimes devotion is just possession wearing a gentle face. Eloan healed slowly. She rebuilt her confidence, reconnected with old friends she had drifted from, and learned to distinguish genuine kindness from obsessive control. Her relationship with Kian grew stronger, rooted in honesty, freedom, and mutual respect, the exact opposite of the suffocating dynamic she had endured for years. She finally understood what real love and real friendship felt like. They do not trap you. They do not control you. They let you grow freely, happily, and unchained. Elias became nothing more than a shadow from her past, a cautionary tale hidden in the wreckage of what she once believed was unconditional friendship. And in the end, the greatest twist of all was not that her best friend loved her in secret. It was that he had never loved her at all. He had only ever loved the hold he had over her life.